This is Heidi.
And I'm Stefan.
And this is the Scream Parlor podcast.
Yes, you're listening to another episode of the podcast where we watch horror movies and just talk about them.
I mean, we get around to talking about them.
Yeah. What's new with you, Heidi? It's been crazy, right?
It's been crazy. Nothing new yet. Just, surviving, which is the reality right now.
Yeah.
People not wearing masks and things being crazy. And, we've had a few people really close to us test positive now, and it's getting really close and really scary. And people don't want to wear masks for some reason. And it's
not everybody, but some people.
Not everybody, but it's crazy because all these other countries have it under control and we don't. And why don't we? It's because we're so, I don't know. I think it's just because our country is just so fucking big. It's really hard to really get a handle on everything. And there's so many conspiracy theories everywhere all the time. And not that I mind conspiracy theories. Some of those are fucking bomb as shit. But the thing is, I mean, what does it hurt to wear a fucking mask?
You're right. And I mean, the thing is, a lot of people just don't believe what they hear on TV sometimes. And
some people believe the bullshit that's on TV.
Right, absolutely.
So
it's just been one thing after another. So, COVID, obviously, then there was the protests and the riots and everything. And then it would look like things might be going back. Then it's not, places start opening up. Then all of a sudden they're closing down again. And you got places like Florida that are just bonkers, so.
But that's just all the time.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm really glad that my kids are going to be going to school remotely throughout starting in the fall again. So I'm actually really excited about that. I made a huge impactful decision. I'm not going back into the workforce back into corporate. I'm stepping out of that world, and it was heartbreaking because I've worked so hard to get ahead there.
Right.
So I stepped back from corporate. I'm doing a lot of consulting right now, and I'm working from home 100%. But I did that this summer for the kids for summer school, and they both got straight A's. And I'm like, it's the way I got to do it. It's not just for me. It's for the betterment of my children. So I'm really glad that they have that option.
So you're your own boss now. That's what I hear.
I am my own boss now. And it feels really good. And I hope I give myself a raise.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
You have exciting news.
Yes, I have exciting news. My band's album is finally out and available. It's DTI.
Wherever you download music.
Right, wherever you download your music, whether it be Spotify, iTunes,
all
Google
these places
Play,
we haven't heard of.
And all these other places we haven't heard of. Yeah, it's all available there now. Go check it out. The band name is DTI. The album's called Defy the Ignorant. And one of the first singles we put out is a song called Dangerous Environment, which I'm still working on some video that I'm going to release soon for all of this. But I'm happy to say that the album's finally seen the light of day, and it's available for the public. So go check it out.
And not for nothing, it's a badass album. Like, I wouldn't plug his shit if it wasn't good. I mean, I probably would, but I wouldn't be so excited about it.
Yeah, you would. You're just a supportive person. So.
I love Dangerous Environment, and another single off there is Mosquitoes, and they're all super relevant. And we talked about this in the last podcast. They're all super relevant now, but they also were super relevant back when he wrote them. So it's just
It's timeless music is what
it's timeless music, but it's so good. It puts you in such an empowered position. It's fucking killer. Yeah. That said, I have a confession.
What's your confession?
Please don't hit me.
Hit you? What do I look like? An abusive person?
All right.
Never hit a woman in my life.
The children and I love you very much.
What?
You didn't know that?
No.
Okay, well, we do.
Where's this going?
And we worked really, really hard. You worked really, really hard on your album, and we're very proud of you. So we have been plotting a little bit today. I don't know if you noticed things were a little bit weird today.
Things are weird all the time. I don't know what she's talking about.
Close your eyes.
What?
Close your eyes.
What do you mean close my eyes?
Close your fucking eyes, asshole.
What are you doing now?
Okay, open your eyes. We made you these.
Oh.
You don't sound excited because you don't smell them. Smell them.
They look and
Smell
smell
them.
delicious.
No, smell them.
What'd you put? What, marijuana in them?
Yes, I made you pop brownies.
They don't. Wait, seriously?
Seriously.
You serious? Serious?
Seriously, I made you pop brownies.
Where'd you get the weed from?
I stole some from you.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
What the fuck?
All right. I guess. No, this whole thing was. Is that why you made?
That's why I made dinner that was braised, because then we had the wine smell cooking all day, so you couldn't smell the brownies cooking. I mean, I made regular brownies too to kind of, red herring.
Yeah. Is that what that's? Okay. Well, bottoms up, down the hatch, whatever.
So the kids kind of kept you occupied, not in the kitchen bothering me. I made something in the crock pot that would be very that would smell up the rest of the house in a good way, so that it overpowered the smell of the weed. And that's what I did.
How much did you put in there?
A couple nugs.
Okay. Well, that was a nice little surprise.
Yeah.
Podcast revelation.
I made pop brownies.
Awesome.
Hit me up for the recipe. How was it? Did it taste good?
Yeah, they taste delicious.
Okay.
Yeah.
I put extra vanilla to cover up the weed taste, because I don't like weed. I mean, it's just not my thing. But I also don't like the taste of any. I mean, they're completely for you.
I had no idea.
That's why I have 2 batches, right?
Gotcha. I just thought you were making extra brownies.
I don't even like brownies that much.
All right. Well, that was a nice
Here's
surprise. Thank you for the lid. Thank you for the brownies.
You're welcome. I mean, that's all we could probably do for you right now, because we can't go out and celebrate. And I know that you normally would go out, celebrate, get shit-faced, but...
Yeah, that and at least play a show, which is something that we can't really do anymore.
Congratulatory pop brownies.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was nice. That was a nice little surprise.
Yeah, you thought it was going to be something bad.
I had no idea what you were planning right there. I had
Don't
no idea.
tell his mom.
Anyways, so yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank
We're very
you.
proud of you. You worked really hard. The album is amazing.
Yeah, you can go check out the actual website, which is dti.band. www.dti.band, B-A-N-D.
And we'll put that in the show notes. And I made his website.
Yep. It's pretty badass. It's killer. We're going to have hopefully some merch coming soon. Trying to work on t-shirts and maybe some masks and, I don't know, hats and other things like that. We'll get some cool stuff printed up eventually.
That said, we're also going to have some Ice Cream Parlor podcast masks already coming up soon. But anyway, yeah, exciting stuff coming, and so proud of you. You put so much of your heart into that album.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that it's out.
Me too. Trust me. I'm happier than everybody, I think. Well, me and the team behind it. We're all very happy to finally have it out there. And, it is what it is. Art is subjective. Some people may like it. Some people may not.
Well, it seems really well received.
Yeah, I hope so. It's my take on a lot of issues and things that are going on in the world now, and have been going on in the world for quite some time. And it's overall just, in my opinion, intense, fun music, Yeah. It gets your blood pumping. It's good stuff to get amped up to, maybe work out to, maybe, I don't know, just let off some steam, hit the punching bag, whatever you want to do. That's what I see. I mean, that's the type of album it is, and that's what we made. And it came out sounding pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I would say so anyways.
It's pretty good.
So cool.
I like it.
Now, with that being said, let's talk about some horror shit.
Did you taste any weed in that? Like any of the flour in it?
I mean, I don't know. No, there was like maybe something that felt slightly chunky that wasn't a nut. Maybe that's what it was, but I don't know. I mean,
well, because I was looking for the
grinder
thing. I couldn't find it.
Yeah. So what'd you do? Chop it up with scissors?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So now I have
cool.
sticky scissors.
The first time not maybe the first time I ate my own pop brownies, but somewhere where it was very new. It was years ago. I was living in Florida. And I didn't actually make the brownies. I had the weed and I supplied the weed, but my cousin's roommate was the one who made the brownies, and we actually put quite a lot in there. I want to say it was like I don't know, half an ounce or more or whatever. And this is just like a tray of brownies, and you know they tasted really good, and we put so much weed in it. But I also hadn't really experimented a lot with edibles, so I ate one, and I ate maybe two, and then three and four, and I was kind of like, well, these are good, but I don't really feel anything. Plus, I smoke so much that I know my tolerance is high. But all of a sudden, a couple hours later, those edibles kicked in so hard, and I was like out of it. It was like, I don't know. It's a whole different thing to get really, really high on an edible. And let me tell you, it was kind of a rough experience after that. It was like really heavy, and I just had to like try to lay down and ride it out. But yeah, that was a pot brownie experiment gone slightly wrong.
Well, I only had a couple of nugs because I couldn't steal a lot from you
Yeah.
because then you'd notice
Yeah.
that you were missing like a lot
Yeah.
of weed. But I did a lot of research and I found a brownie recipe that I liked, and then I just incorporated some of the other pot brownie recipes
Gotcha.
suggestions, and I
Did
did
you?
that.
So I guess I mean we're gonna talk about making edibles now, but like, so one of the whole tricks with it is to do it within the butter. Is that what you did?
That's what I did.
Okay, all right.
That's why. Do you remember? I was like, "Do you think you can go to the storage?"
That's why you were trying to go get me to go get. I was like, what? You never. You want me to go down there just to get a chair? I was like, all right.
But then Isabel distracted you with GTA, and you guys were shooting prostitutes.
No, I don't think that was happening.
What
Not
were
today.
you guys doing?
I don't know. She was playing the game. She was probably stuck in some mission, but it wasn't like killing prostitutes today.
Okay. Well, anyway, they were playing GTA, and so I was like, okay, yes. And so I quickly like melted the butter, and then I made my weed butter.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Cool.
I would have never thought, like, I would have thought that, like, had I not done the research, I would have probably been like, okay, and then just sprinkled it in the batter at the end, and I think that would have made it worse. I think it would have make it taste bad. I think those taste pretty good.
Yeah, they do taste good. I mean, the whole trick of it with people who don't know is that yes, you have to try to incorporate it into like the butter or make a sort of a oil or butter or something first and then put it in there as opposed to just sprinkling in weed. But I think even if you did that, it still does sort of work somewhat, But anyways, great. That's a lot of brownies there. So I'm definitely not going to eat all those tonight.
Yeah, don't do that. Do you remember when I tried an edible? Okay, so I don't do anything like whatsoever. Like I have last week, I took a child's dose of children's Benadryl and it knocked me on my ass. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't do anything, but I did try an edible once with Stefan, and I think I was supposed to have a quarter of it, and I ate the whole thing. I don't know.
It wasn't even. You should have been able to handle that. It wasn't even a heavy edible. It was like literally one dose, like what they legally allow is like 10 grams or whatever it is.
Well, so what happened was...
I don't know, whatever. The point is it wasn't a heavy-duty edible.
What happened was I took it, and then I'm like, okay, well, let's go to the laundromat. This was like, I don't know, some long time ago. Let's go to the laundromat. And so I'm like, suddenly I just start laughing, and Stefan's like, why are you laughing so much? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm just laughing. And then I'm like, wait, what do you mean you don't know why I'm laughing? You know why I'm laughing. And then after that, it was like a nightmare. Like I went to the bathroom to try to use it, and there was some clothes on the floor, and I was like, I felt like a robot picking up the clothes, putting it down,
you went all exorcist and went
and then I projectile vomited all over the bedroom.
It was gross, disgusting.
It was. I don't.
The
ever
kids were like,
do
"What's
that.
going on? What's happening?" And I was like, "Nothing." And your mom's just.
I didn't think it was going to be like this huge thing where I'm
I didn't
like
think
send the
so
kids
either.
away, like going like what is it, like ayahuasca, like you have to like be somewhere else. But for me, it was like, oh shit, like I can't function, and I called in sick the next day.
Yeah,
It was
crazy.
bad. It was bad. So I'm never gonna have any of those, but you can have those.
All right, great. Well, appreciate it. Like I said, I'm kind of interested to see where this podcast goes today because we're doing it on a movie. I know we haven't talked about any of this yet, but we're doing it on a movie that's pretty gory and intense. And we kind of went from what was last week's one, the Tenebrae, last week, whatever the last episode. That was
Our
very
intention is to do it weekly,
that
but
that was very cinematic and Italian, and
so we went from one end of the horror spectrum
yeah,
to
to
the
the
other.
other.
We went Takashi Miike. We went Ichi the Killer.
Yeah.
And it's deliciously gory, but not like you cannot eat while you're watching a Miike movie. We went to a midnight showing of Audition. Like, his movies are ones that leave you kind of feeling uneasy and itchy.
We didn't do audition for. We did do audition, didn't we?
No.
Not for one of the episodes.
No,
Oh, yeah.
but we went to, like, when I would do Secret Movie Club back when things were open. We did Secret Movie Club, midnight showing of Audition.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. Well,
But like Ichi the Killer is a disgusting fucking movie. And when I was doing, like, looking for some kind of stuff about it, I saw that Ichi the Killer was like along the same vein as what's the movie you don't let me watch? Serbian film.
yeah.
Because it is just a fucking disaster.
I didn't. I watched this movie a long time ago. My good friend who I went to high school with, we call him Kenobi. Kenobi 1.
I know Kenobi.
Yeah, he and I were we started doing music together way back in high school. But anyways, he introduced me to this movie a long time ago, and this is before I was really hip to a lot of the other ones, such as Old Boy and Audition and a few others. So anyways, I watched it back then, and I definitely remember it being like, oh my God, like it kind of was like shocking, because that's what the movie goes for, this whole shock factor. But this time around, I didn't really feel like, first of all, it didn't shock me as much because I knew it was supposed to be a shocker movie. And then I'm kind of desensitized to all that shit now.
Sorry.
But it just also seemed very old school to me for some reason. Like something about it seemed very dated.
Well, it's 20 years old now.
Yeah.
We're old.
But I know, but some movies that are old don't necessarily feel dated. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, for whatever reason, maybe it was the costume, maybe it was the lighting. I don't know what it was. Something in the movie made me feel like it was very dated. And we watched Audition recently, like you said, and I didn't feel the same thing about that movie at the time. But anyways.
I can understand that. Ichi the Killer is a 2001 movie, and it's based off a manga.
Manga.
I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not hip, but it's based on one of those series, and it's just a different flow. It's a different artistic style.
Yeah.
So that you have like those exaggerating like death scenes and just kind of like but kind of like in the Tenebrae last episode. They painted the walls with blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this, but, with the corn syrup stuff instead of the red paint.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I saw this movie a long time ago as well.
Uh-huh.
I saw it before I even met you, for a podcast even. I saw it just because I was bored one day and I'm like, well, that looks good. And I had been on this whole, it's a Japanese movie, right?
yeah, he's Japanese. Yeah.
Like this Japanese horror films. And I remember I saw it around the same time where I saw this movie I can't find anywhere anymore. It's Tokyo Gore Police, because that movie's fucking awesome. And then I think it was suggested as Ichi the Killer. And I was like, oh, well, let me watch this. And watching it this time, it was kind of just like a warm hot chocolate. Like he's familiar, but it wasn't as strong. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I totally understand that. And it can just be because we have seen it and we know what to expect. There were some scenes that I did forget about that I then was like, oh shit, like the scene.
Snipping of the tongue.
Yeah, that one was like, you can't watch it.
See, now I sort of, and I'm still sort of confused a little bit with the ending of the movie. Like I don't know. I'm going to have to recap that with you on the podcast here because, I kind of got the gist of what's going on. Honestly, I wasn't paying attention as much as I probably should have been. It's just again, I had the album coming out. I had a lot going on in my head, so I tried my best to focus on it. The thing I paid most attention to was most of the gory parts, which is sort of like
Right.
that
So
manga Japanese anime kind of stuff is very over the top in their comic books, and that's what they're trying to translate in the movie here. Um, so
right.
yeah.
So the thing is, the movie. Okay. I think you have to watch Ichi the Killer if you're going to watch it without having to worry about the storyline. Because the movie storyline is not exactly as thorough or thought out or explained. It takes you from point A to point B and then to point C. Okay. But you're watching it because of the gross factor. You're watching it because of the gore. You're watching it because of what the fuck is going to happen next, but not why things are happening. It's less about what the storyline is, because the storyline, it's so fragmented, because it's just supposed to get you to the next scene of disgusting delight. So once you watch it like that, you can be super forgiving and just enjoy the movie.
Yeah. So a little fun fact, Ichi is the way it's the number one in Japanese. So, it's something I wanted to point out. I took Japanese karate as a kid, and we used to have to count. And Ichi is number one.
What's 2?
Ni.
And what's 3?
San.
And 4.
Chi.
And 5.
Go, I think.
En español.
Well,
Uno.
It's yours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So,
Give it to me, baby.
Now, this movie, there's a lot of, I feel like, repressed sexual, or it's like a very like S&M-y kind of movie. It's all about pain and enjoying it, and
So the movie's called Ichi the Killer, but the main character is not Ichi.
Right.
I feel like
that actually really confused me a little bit too, even watching it the second time, because the guy on the box cover, or what you see as the picture, you think is supposed to be Ichi, but it's not.
It's Kakihara,
which is a really funny name.
Like
Kakihara.
the Kakihara picture show, right? Yeah, I got him to smile.
Good.
I got a point.
That was stupid. I was trying to take a drink and you're over here for me. Dumb jokes.
Okay, well, hold on. I have notes, so why don't we do it this way? All right. So, Ichi the Killer is also called Koroshiya, and it's from 2001.
Koroshiya 1. Right, yeah.
Koroshiya 1. So if you go look for it, aside from Netflix, you won't find Ichi the Killer. You'll find Koroshiya 1.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that means.
Which is probably Koroshiya Ichi is how they probably pronounce it in Japanese.
Oh, Koroshiya Ichi.
Yeah.
Okay. It's directed by Takashi Miike, who we love. Creepy.
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
creepy as in gross. Like, to this day, I still think of the audition scene when it's kitty, 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 kitty.
That was his movie too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the skewer to the eye.
Yeah, for some reason I felt like that was a Korean movie, but it could be. I mean, obviously he's Japanese. I wonder if he ever set his movies in like Korea. I would assume that most Japanese people would keep it Japanese, but we don't really know. Directors are free to do what they do. I just for some reason thought that Audition was.
Do you remember we went to go see Audition at a midnight showing at the Vista is it Silver Lake? Oh, Los Feliz. And it was like the middle of the night, naturally, and every now and again you'd hear somebody's phone drop because people were falling asleep.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it's not because it's a boring movie, but it's because it's midnight and it's subtitled and there's a lot of quiet.
Well, that and the fact that we had seen a movie marathon before that, and some of the same people were at that movie marathon. And that was the thing, is that we sat through 6 hours of movies first, and then went to that another one. So,
like, before I met Stefan, I was super into Secret Movie Club and Cinematic Void events, and that I would just, they do movie marathons or like 3 movies at a time or whatever. And then a Secret Movie Club is like you just go and watch an old school movie. So, Fortunately, Stefan seems to dig being able to go eat street corn during intermission, and it's been fun. But we watched like 3 movies in a row in Hollywood, and then have to drive to Los Feliz and to see a midnight showing. That was actually a lot of fun. And there was that one creepy guy.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like he wanted to sit right next to you or something like that, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Oh
Yeah.
no, I forgot what it was. But he was sitting like in front of us or behind us at the first place, and then he was at the second place, and then
He wanted to be
he went-
seat buddies.
he like. It was weird. It was almost like he went and sat right next to some other stranger too, and I was like, "What?" Anyways.
Yeah, so he's the kind of person that doesn't leave a seat in the middle. He sits right next to a stranger.
But this wasn't a packed movie theater. It was lots of open seating. So it's like like
I don't know. He probably was pretty cool, and I probably had seen him there before. Like I used
if
to.
you were at a urinal in a guy's bathroom, and then there was like
if I'm at a urinal at a guy's bathroom, there's something going on.
Well, I'm just saying, if there's 2 stalls, no, so if there's 3 stalls, and you're in one on the right, and then the person takes the one right next to you when there's an empty stall, seems a little excessive. It's like, why don't you just take that one? What's up with this one?
So, for those of you that don't know, women poop. And when you go to the bathroom, you generally leave an empty stall in between you going to the next one.
Yeah, see, that's like some etiquette that I'm not aware of. But that's what I'm talking about, is why pick that one? Why go right next to somebody else who you don't know? I don't know, whatever. I just wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
All
that's
right,
me.
So it's stars, and I'm going to read these off because I want to do them some kind of justice. Tadanobu Asano, and that's Kakihara.
Yeah, I think this is, well, go ahead, read them if you want to. I would.
Now Ohmori, which is Ichi.
I would just let everybody do their research.
And then why are they watching this? And Shin'ya Tsikamoto, and that's Gigi.
All right, well.
Okay. And the film is a live-action theatrical adaptation of Hideo Yamamoto's manga, manga. What did I say, mango?
Manga.
Manga, Goroshiya Ichi.
Yeah. What I remember
I had a friend named Autumn Yamamoto when I was in elementary school. And it was like the only Japanese name I've ever heard at that point because I went to school in a really, really brown neighborhood. In fact, I was the outcast because I was the only one not Mexican. And her name was Autumn Yamamoto. And we had a teacher, Miss Webster, and she, when they did the census, she was so confused as to why when we filled out our census in school, why Autumn identified as Japanese instead of as Black. And I was like, that was the first time I ever experienced anything like, you have to identify as a race, really? Because growing up as the only non-Mexican in the neighborhood, all I knew is my family is from a different country than everybody else's family who are from different countries. So that was my first instance of, whoa, what's this? What's going on now? Anyway.
Okay. Yeah, you lost me there. I'm like, okay.
And the tagline was, love really hurts.
Okay.
And we'll get to that.
Well, all right, where do you want to start with the movie? Because to be honest with you, like, I didn't really get the depth of it. All I got was all the gory parts. Tongue cutting, hanging from fucking hooks.
Well, so the synopsis, how about that?
Sure.
Kakihara is a sadomasochistic Yakuza enforcer. And he's searching in vain for his boss, Anjo, who's killed, but he continues to search for him because he's the only person that's able to inflict the pain that Kakihara needs.
Yeah, well, so first of all, he doesn't know he's killed in the beginning. He thinks he's only kidnapped.
He knows.
But secondly, so what does this mean? That the boss and him are having like some sort of love affair?
No, that the boss inflicts pain on him, but Kakihara likes it.
So he just secretly loves the fact that this guy hurts him.
Yes.
And
that's why later when Karen tries, he's disappointed.
Yeah, but so Kakihara would only be getting pain inflicted on him if he's doing a bad job, right?
Right.
So he does a bunch of bullshit to get his boss mad, so his boss will whoop his ass.
Which explains his behavior throughout the movie, right? I don't give a shit, let me just do what I want. Anyway, a little bit of fun facts. This movie was banned in Malaysia and in Germany, and in 2009 it was banned in Norway because it is fucking disgusting in many different ways.
I completely understand Malaysia, but Germany, it's like they're just trying to be saints now after all their bad history. They're like, oh, we are good guys, and there's no need to show these bad things.
Hasselhoff.
I don't know what kind of accent that was, but
I don't know.
I was trying to do the Germans.
But as a publicity stunt, they would hand out barf bags in movie theaters.
Yeah. See, I get, and that's what I'm saying. They knew they were going for shock value. They knew they wanted to get that stamp of approval. But Germany, that doesn't seem like it should be banned there. They do a lot of crazy shit, literally.
Right. So the movie starts like this.
Mm-hmm. Break it down.
Ichi.
Ichi. It's probably a little bit more each, and then the last little part of it is a little bit like it's not as accented, like each. Does that make sense? Because when we used to count, we used to go each. It's almost like each without the e, but that e is kind of just there.
So the movie starts like this. Ichi. Ichi is riding his bike through town super, super fast. And he ends up on the balcony. And he is witnessing a pimp abuse his the prostitute that he's with. And he not only is physically abusing her, he then, when she's bloody, black and blue, he starts to rape her. Mm-hmm. And Ichi inadvertently kicks a pot in the balcony, and the guy gets up to look. And he goes to look in the balcony, and jizz everywhere.
Yeah, it's funny? I was just trying to read some little tidbits real quick on IMDb. Did you read this one?
That it's real cum.
Yeah, that's gross.
That's real cum. There's jizz like on a plant, because there's plants on the balconies, and it's dripping. And I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, these Japanese people are, I love...
That's a lot of cum.
First of all, I love everybody. I have no bad blood in my body for any... I can, I just hate stupidity. So if you do stupid things, I don't care what race, color, or religion, or whatever you are. It's about your actions and your stupidity. But the Japanese people, they love some extreme shit. They love some, like that's the whole thing, that they've got, tentacle porn, and they've got...
They have tentacle porn?
They've got, just crazy stuff.
Wait, so like tentacles replacing like penises, or... Are
you not aware of this?
I mean, I understand that they have tentacle porn. I just have never looked at it.
Yeah.
What is it? Like, is it either women who have like tentacles coming out of their vaginas, or is it they replaced all penises with tentacles?
Kind of, sort of, something like that. I'm not a very, very big expert on this at all, but they have all these weird rules. Like Japan, they're not allowed to like in their regular porn. Forget the tentacle shit. They're not allowed to show like, the dick going into the pussy, that kind of shit. Like it's all blurred out. But
really?
Yeah, but like they'll show the tits and the ass and whatever, but they won't show the penetration. They blur out the bottom half. And why they do that, I don't know. That's some sort of modesty thing that they're trying to do. And the reason why tentacle porn came about is because of that. There's this whole thing. I saw it on a documentary once. The guy who is an artist who drew all this, that was his way of getting around, because they couldn't do like, they couldn't show the actual penetration part of it. So they created a loophole, which is these tentacles that are penetrating, and therefore that's legal to show, but the real shit's not. So
you know a lot about porn.
Porn, yes. Tentacle porn, no.
So, did I ever tell you the first porn I ever saw?
No.
I was 16 years old, and I had already moved out of the house. And I was at
16?
a friend of a friend's house.
It's really late.
Well, I come from a very conservative household.
So do I. I think the first one I saw was like 9.
I come from a dry household. Like, my parents didn't even have alcohol. Like,
same with mine. My parents...
Okay, but I'm not a pervert.
That's a lie.
I know. But anyway, so I had a lot of catching up to do, which is what explains my swinger days, whatever. Here's the thing. I was at a friend's house and they were watching something, and then I'm like, oh, what's this movie? Can I borrow this one? And they're like, yeah, and they start laughing. I don't remember. And then I went to my other friend's house because that's where I was sleeping at that time, and I'm watching it, and it's like porn. It's like anime porn, and it's like cartoon porn,
yeah.
and it's like
that was your first porn
yeah, and then the girl was like tied up and upside down, and
again.
this monster guy comes up, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to feel this way right now.
What does the monster guy do?
Fingers her while she's upside down,
and
chained
did just
up.
Some guy like come and rescue her?
I don't remember.
Oh, because it's almost sounded like you were describing Ninja Scroll, which is a really good Japanese anime. Is that what it was?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I've never been into anime. I'm like too old to like. I missed it because I've been on my own since I was 16. Yes, but also I had to grow up really quick, and we didn't have TV growing up. Like we were allowed an hour a week of TV, and then we would just rent movies at the video place, and they didn't have anime. It wasn't Blockbuster. It was like Lee's Video Rental, I think is what it was.
Lee.
Mm-hmm. They probably.
It's a very Asian name right there.
It was an Asian family.
So anyway,
they called me Pumpkin.
That's interesting. My first porn was it was probably something kind of softcore, like Cinemax type of thing.
See, we didn't have cable.
Well, neither did I. But again, like I was at a friend's house, and really what happened was, it was a sleepover, and this is like early 80s or whatever. When you used to have, I don't know if you know about this, and now you should, hopefully, the scrambler box, right? Remember back then the pictures were all scrambled on other. You don't know anything about this. You never had anybody that you've known in your lifetime that's had illegal cable.
I'm
or
brown.
box?
You're not allowed to go to other friends' house.
Yeah, but what do you? I mean, yeah, but brown people, I would assume, know how to steal cable.
Brown conservative household.
All right, there was this thing called the scrambler box, okay? And back then, when you would have channels, if you had cable, if you were fortunate enough to have cable, after you go through channel 1 through 12 or so, you get into the 13s to the 20s to the 25s and 30s. Now, all these channels are cable channels. Now, you get to like maybe somewhere around, I think it was like in the 50s or whatever. Anyways, you get to like MTV, VH1, whatever. After that, you keep going to like the higher numbers you go, and all of a sudden things like HBO, Disney Channel, Cinemax, Showtime, the Playboy Channel, all that stuff was scrambled. So what it was is it was like the picture was all distorted and you couldn't see anything, and every once in a while it would straighten out for like a couple seconds, and then it would go away again. But then they sold these boxes that would unscramble the scrambled channels, and it was like basically illegal, like how we get like nowadays you go to download sites and you can download every TV show that there is. This was sort of like the early versions of that, where you could unscramble paid channels. So if you were lucky enough and you had this, then you could watch it for free. So we were really young, so 9, like I said. I was sleeping over at a friend's house, and his parents were in the other room, and they had the scrambler box in their room. But I think what they didn't realize is that when they unscrambled something, the cable was hooked up like through one cable line kind of thing. So whatever they had going on the TV in there showed up in the TV in the thing, and they didn't know that. So all of a sudden we're flipping through, and there's this unscrambled porn channel, and we were supposed to be watching something else. I think we were watching Kid and Play's house party or whatever.
That's a different kind of house party.
Yeah. And next thing you know, there's this like Skinamax thing going on, and we're like, holy shit. And so we had, the little last channel jump button. So you go from one channel to the other, and then you sit there with the remote, and if you hear a noise, just go and jump back to the previous channel you're watching and pretend. And his parents came out the room at one point in time. I was like, "What are you guys still up? Go to sleep or whatever." And I think it was because they might have heard. I don't know. We probably put the volume down. We didn't have the volume up, but
Or the sausage fest. Just
but that was the first time I remember seeing something that was completely like X-rated, and I was only 9 then. And it's all downhill after that, I guess.
well, now that I think about it, before we moved to South Central, we lived in Mid City, and we lived in like this duplex. And there was a sociopath that lived in the duplex right across from us, and his name was Gary. Gary probably is a serial killer now. But he did have, he had a crossbow, and he would point it at us. Anyway, Gary, you probably are a serial killer.
So this is an interesting episode.
He showed us, my brother and I. My brother is 2 years younger than I, and I would have been at the oldest, like 7 years old, when he showed us a magazine, and it was like Playboy or something, and that was the first like racy image I saw. But other than that, it was 16 years old.
Back in those days, it was, especially for boys, it was like really, whatever. You just had to figure it out however you could. Usually it would be stumbling across a video or a magazine,
But how do you stumble across? You think like the dads of all these people like casually leave their magazines so that their sons can explore?
Not necessarily casually. Some people are just like, they don't know. I mean, in certain cases, like I know, back then you would record over movies. So that's what I found a tape when I was I had my uncles and stuff living in my house for a while, and they had like tapes that were, they recorded over, and it was labeled as something else. But then one day I was like looking for a blank tape, and I put something in, and it wasn't what was labeled. A real funny story real quick. I could tell you that happened in high school. We had to do the science fair or whatever it was. And
anatomy, biology.
No, it was like
reproductive system.
No, it was no. It was like a science fair, whatever. The whole everybody in the certain grade had to do their little experiment project or whatever. A friend of mine had, I don't even remember what his project was about, but he did that where he took a tape which he thought was just something he was recording over, and he recorded. Oh, no. It was VHS tape. So he recorded his presentation and was, brought into school.
Oh, no.
And, back then you'd have the poster board and you have to set up your little display. Well, he got permission to use the VHS tape. Now, while he was there in class, he would play the tape. When it got to the end, he would rewind it, start it over again, because it was like people were coming out through the whole day. It was like they set it up in like, I don't know, like the cafeteria or something. And so other classrooms of people would be there. So if it was your period and you were there, you're at your, presenting your thing. But when that period was over, you were somewhere else. So anyways, when he wasn't there, the tape just continued to play. And it ended up cutting off, and then a couple minutes later came back on, and it was like some old school porn that his dad probably had on tape. And the science teacher was like, they didn't know. All of a sudden there was like a group of people that were all over at this one particular display, and the teachers come over to find that this thing was playing porn.
Oh my God. That's a different kind of volcanic eruption.
So when we got to the period, let's say it was third or fourth period, whatever, we were later on in the day. So we got there to class, and the teacher's like, it wasn't even my presentation, but I was really good friends with him. So obviously she's like, we got to have a little talk about your presentation. That video you have is pretty interesting. Have you seen the tape all the way through? And then we're like, what? What are you talking about? And then I think it dawned on my friend that maybe there was something else on the tape. Whatever. The teacher straight up told us, you got some fucking porn on that tape, basically. And we laughed, and we were like, holy shit, that's crazy. And then obviously we wanted to see the damn tape, but, they had I forgot.
Oh my God, did the dad had to go pick it up?
I don't remember. I'd have to talk to my buddy. This is so long ago. This is like 7th or 8th grade or
I imagine
whatever.
you calling your buddy to be like, hey, Let's talk about science for porn.
Yeah. But yeah.
Oh my God, call him right now.
I don't have his number anymore. Nobody has numbers nowadays. But yeah, that was a little funny little incident. So this is a great podcast where we're just talking about racy shit and porn.
Are you getting a boner?
No.
So gross.
But yeah, that was a very funny time. And man, those old days, it was like different back then.
Like,
now it's so instant. You can just put your phone and just look up anything. And
yeah,
it's right
and I
there.
totally do. But back in the day, like I do remember, I was a little bit more, I don't know, I want to say leaning towards very masculine when I was a kid.
Tomboy?
No.
No.
But I remember.
Butch Dyke?
No. I remember being on AOL chat rooms that would be like
ASL?
No. You want to tell my story?
What was it then? ASL, age, sex, location. Remember that?
No. Pics for text.
Oh, right. I remember that too.
And I used to pretend I was a dude and get pics. And I'd have like storage of them because pics didn't turn me on. But the text did. The stories did. And so I'd be like, yeah, I'll trade you a pic for a text. Give it to me.
Yeah, I was just about to say, because I don't remember. I said I remember, but I remember pic for pic. I don't remember pic for text.
It's a very niche.
Yeah, like, so what are you're getting a text message out of it, or I mean an instant message out of it, and you're sending somebody a picture?
No, long stories. Like erotic stories.
Yeah, I never was really into that.
It's more of a women thing, I hear.
Of course, yeah. That's why nobody reads the articles in Playboy.
Except for the women.
Yeah, I mean...
Anyway, so jizz everywhere
articles,
is what we're saying. And out of the jizz rises Ichi.
Oh, we're back to the movie again. Right, yeah. Out of
And that's how the movie starts. Come everywhere.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Like a lot of it.
You already
it was very
know
viscous.
You already know, which that's what I mean. It's Japanese people. So somebody must have jerked off fresh right into that.
Yeah, it had to be.
It might have even been multiple people.
It even looked like, just looking at it, it looked warm.
Yeah, they're under the whole bukkake thing. So maybe that was like 10 people that
What's
jerked
bukkake?
Up. That's where like they get as many guys as they possibly can to jizz all over the girl.
Have you ever participated in one?
No.
Would that then mean that, like, do you think the guys would help each other out? Kind of like...
They don't usually help each other out.
Like,
but
usually... Excuse me, there's a...
Yeah, they don't usually help each other out. But usually it's like a contest to get the most amount of jizz all over the place.
How do you... So... Men's reproductive organs are obviously a lot different than women's, but we have like a set amount of eggs, for example, and men can produce almost infinite amount of semen. So in order to win the bukkake fest, like, would you then have to not come for a while first and build it up? Like, because I don't think there's a reservoir.
There's no winning, though. It's not about like you producing the most. It's about having 50 guys and now you got 50 gallons of cum because it's like...
But not every guy produces a gallon.
I'm exaggerating, obviously, but the point I'm trying to make is
Be exact. We're talking science fair.
The point I'm trying to make is that they just like the excessiveness of it, I guess, like just to cover somebody in or whatever. So they just get as many guys and each person dumps once and, it all adds up, I guess. I don't know. Not my thing. I'm not into that, It
doesn't sound good.
Yeah. But the Japanese people love this kind of stuff for some reason. I saw the funniest...
I don't think it's just Japanese because, like, if you go on, like, sites that I do frequent, it's an option. It's a category.
No, that's true. It's not. But the Japanese people have the fact that they have this very, like, oh, we have to censor this part, but we're totally okay if you do it as a tentacle. Or we have to censor it, but get 50 guys to come on one girl, and that's totally cool, and let's tie them upside down and hang them from ropes and shit like that.
That's not that different than what I do with my children. Not the porn part.
The hanging them from ropes part?
Check this out. I don't like my kids to watch any movies that have, like, sex in them. You know what I mean? Like,
well, parents do.
Like a movie that there's going to have a sex scene, I don't let my children watch it. However, they can watch people getting killed all the time. It's like a balance. Like, it's like you're going to have to go with one set of evils. Like, which one are you going to pick and choose?
This is the funny thing about America and our culture here is that we are okay with violence.
Not okay with sexual
Not okay
expression.
with sexual expression. However, you go to Europe, it's the opposite. They do not like to show violence and all that, but they are okay with having very open sexual stuff.
Right. So here in my home, I allow my children to, express themselves however they want to express themselves, and we have conversations about sex and whatever needs they may have as growing young adults. But they are very overexposed to violence in movies that we watch because, I mean, aside from, like I said it last time, I was trying to watch Torso, but it opens with an orgy, and I'm like, yeah, I'll watch this later. Versus if I would have put on any other movie that starts with slaughter, then I would have probably been fine. Like 300, I would have watched it with them. I've watched it with them.
Yeah, well, again, with some people, it's the violence aspect is.
I think it's just because
accepted.
Well, so because I come from a family where we never talked about it, so I think in that space, I'm like, that might be the only space where I'm super conservative. It's like, hold on to, and especially since I'm a survivor of sexual abuse, maybe it's just me wanting to shield them from sexual exposure.
Well, even in Europe, I think that it's still probably, when it comes to families, I don't think that there's I don't know. I don't think that there's many.
You don't think everybody's just sitting around watching porn together?
Well, not just porn, but I'm saying, like, if they put on a thing and there's a sex scene in a movie, and
I think everybody forwards it.
Yeah, if you're watching it with your family, like even when you're like at our age, if we're watching a movie with like our parents and there's a crazy sex scene, it's gonna be slightly awkward, I would assume.
The only movie I ever watched with my mother is Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying.
Literally, it's the only movie we watched together. That and Milo and Otis.
Yeah. So it's just, families and parents and children, you're always going to have that. You're not going to.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. Okay, so moving on.
We're talking about the opening scene. He runs off, right? The guy doesn't find him.
So Ichi runs off. And then we are introduced to three men in a van. And one is Gigi. One is Kano, and a third guy that I don't remember his name, but I'll remember it at some point. And what they are is they're the cleaners. They clean up after murders, and they clean up the murder scenes for the crime syndicates, for the Yakuza. Right. Now they're talking about Ichi, who is the killer. He's the one who goes and one of them is already like trying to shoot up. Another one is telling him not to. Another one is talking to his girlfriend or something like that. And they finally go and so Anjo is one of the bosses from one of the Yakuza gangs within the crime syndicate. Follow me?
Yes.
All right. He's killed off screen. But when the cleaners go up there, once Ichi says, hey, done, they go up there and massacre. Like, this one fucking guy, maybe his girlfriend, are sitting there, are dead. Like, floor to ceiling blood, walls covered in entrails, and like to the point where one of the guys slips and falls on gross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what was it, like intestines or something?
Yeah. And then they're both sitting there and they're like, this guy's a maniac.
Yeah.
But we got to do this.
And it's again taken from the Japanese anime comic book kind of strip. I can see how, that's their whole thing, is to like show, excessive crazy shit in the comic book. So it's actually, for them to recreate it in a movie form, it's really difficult,
Right, but I think they did well.
I think they did
because this is going to sound stupid, but they made the gore and the violence so realistic, but not. Like, it wasn't like what's something that we watched recently? It wasn't it wasn't campy. It wasn't like funny. Like, there are some comedic elements to it, of course, but it wasn't like funny. It was just over the top gross, and what it left you was the grossest part of society. You know what I mean? The grossest part, like as gross as things can get. And it left you with that. And you didn't walk away saying, well, that was stupid. You walked away saying that was gross. But you get grossed out because things seem like when you get grossed out, it's because things seem so real that you can imagine yourself in the position. That's when you get grossed out, especially in Ichi. But when you get grossed out in other ways, like the Toxic Avenger grosses me out all the time because it's gross, right? But it's not realistic.
Sure. I do feel like that this movie is definitely not for everybody. There's a lot of people that are not going to be able to stomach or swallow this movie, even if they like some of the other, like people who might have been interested in Peeping Tom when we did that movie. They're not going to necessarily be into this kind of movie.
Yeah, if you watch Tenebrae, you probably want to skip Ichi. Like, if that's your fun movie.
Well, Tenebrae was still, like, it had the sexual aspect. It had a lot of nudity in it. And it had, like, the violence of it, sure. But they did show the arm chopping. There's
a lot of rape in this movie.
Yeah, well, that's another thing that seems to go very much with the Japanese culture.
There's a flashback scene that happens throughout the movie. And it's a very important scene. It's Ichi having a flashback to his childhood when he was in school. And he witnessed a classmate of his who was very nice to him. He witnessed her rape. And not just a rape, her gang rape.
Yeah.
And
I think this ties in with the ending somewhere. That's obviously the reveal.
Yeah. So during this gang rape, he is left out of the gang rape. And he's observing and he doesn't know what to do. He seems paralyzed and frozen, unsure of how to help his friend. But also, some of the boys come up that are gang raping this girl come up to him and feel his dick that he's hard and they make fun of him. Yeah. So
it's like they're not gonna. You can't make fun of the guy who's feeling the dick, but you're making fun of the guy who's got a hard dick. So it's stupid.
Kids are stupid. So Gigi and his crew, they clean up the place, and then later on we're introduced to Kakihara. And Kakihara is the character that's on the cover of the movie. Yeah, he's the one who's actually the main character of the movie because we follow him around a lot more and we know a little bit more about who he is now than we do Ichi.
Yeah, he's got the nice little Joker smile cut into his face with some little piercings.
He's got face full of piercings. Interestingly enough, in the manga, he's like more of a middle-aged man. And in the movie, they chose to go with somebody who looks pretty good.
Oh, middle-aged meaning...
Like an old balding man, like an accountant.
Gotcha. Because I feel, I mean, he's not super young.
He's not super young, but he's very attractive and he dresses pretty fly. He has a purple satin jacket, like overcoat, like to the floor overcoat, like a duster.
Yeah.
He's very fashionable. He's very stylish. He has a flannel suit that I love. Yeah. But he's very attractive.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting that for the live action movie, they chose to go younger and more handsome. And I think that's because as a society in general, people tend to be more forgiving of people that are attractive. For example, people are in love with Ted Bundy and he's so handsome, but not like John Wayne Gacy because he was fat and old and ugly.
That's one of the things about society and their view on beauty and all that. I mean, if you saw somebody who looked like a bum and was gross and disgusting and dirty, you'd typically assume that maybe they're not, you wouldn't necessarily believe them, or you'd be like, oh, you're, whatever. But a beautiful person comes along and tells you a story or a lie, and you sort of don't, you kind of believe them at first just because until, maybe doing some more research. I don't know. It's strange. I guess maybe that's one of those perks that come along with beauty.
I wouldn't know. Okay, so they end up going to his so Kakihara and his gang are in this apartment where Enjo's supposed to be, and it is white. It is pristine. It is clean. Because Gigi and his crew did a good job. Mm-hmm. Now, the theory is that Anjo ran away with $3 million and his girlfriend. And that's what everybody seems to be thinking. But Kakihara's like, no, he wouldn't just leave because he has this relationship with him. Like, no, he wouldn't just leave. Something happened to him. Somebody kidnapped him. He is under the impression that somebody has kidnapped him.
Sure.
Well, so then we meet Karen, and Karen is the boss's girl, but she's a sex worker. And she's at this club, and we're introduced to her. We're also introduced a little bit more to Gigi and his crew, because Karen says that Gigi and his crew, they're the outcasts that other Yakuza gangs did not want, but they do odds and ends. They do all of the arsons and the robberies and the rapes.
Right. She has also a good little American accent and speaks in English every once in a while.
Yeah, so she's actually, I think, Chinese is what I read.
Really?
Yeah. So she's Chinese. I don't know Japanese, so I don't know when she's transitions or if there's an accent. I don't know.
No, but she just speaks clearly in English every once in a while.
And it's interesting. And for me, it was a little difficult because I can't hear that well. So I have to have the volume up really high and I have to have subtitles. But because the movie is in Japanese, I had to take the regular subtitles off so it wouldn't get double. So then when she switches over to English, there's nothing. And I'm like, ¿Cómo? So
she didn't say anything that important anyway, so it's not like
she's kind of crazy
much.
because she's talking about how she killed her neighbor's dog or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of nuts.
So is she the girl from the beginning? No, right?
No. The girl from the beginning is called Sailor.
Not the girl in the beginning, I'm sorry. The girl in the flashback.
That's the question.
Okay.
So we're going to skip over the plot because the plot is kind of nonsense. And it doesn't really take you anywhere. But here are the highlights. Gigi is trying to turn all the Yakuza gangs against each other. And he does that by trying to accuse Suzuki, a rival gang leader, of Anjo's kidnapping. And when he points a finger at him, Kakihara comes back to him, or kidnaps him, Suzuki, and hangs him by his skin off of hooks.
Yes, very.
And interrogates him. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, he pours hot grease.
Yeah, because he was cooking like some
shrimp tempura. Yeah.
He pours the hot grease from all over his back while he's being suspended, like completely flat like a board in the air, basically. Again, very intense, very gory, grotesque, brutal, shit.
Yeah, it's a pretty gross scene, but we find out that no, it wasn't Suzuki.
Right.
And
it's the wrong guy.
It's the wrong guy, but nevertheless he's sent to the hospital. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, that is a reason why later on Kakihara is like, so the leader of all the Yakuza syndicate is this guy who's like seems sickly. He's very delicate and people have to watch over him because he's this small little meek guy. And he forces Kakihara to apologize to Suzuki.
Right.
But he wants to apologize to him and he wants him to apologize and give him some of the porn business that they stiffed Suzuki from in the first place. But Kakihara's apology is a grotesque scene.
His idea of an apology is basically they're like, oh, 1 or 2 fingers is not going to do it this time. He's like, yeah, that's all right. I'll just cut off my tongue.
That's it. No problem. And then he cuts off his tongue.
He does it with a sword. He takes like a knife or a sword.
Yeah, he cuts off his tongue.
Cuts it off. This scene is really funny because he then throws it at the Yakuza
and the guy catches it, but he gets a phone call and he's like, oh, and then he walks out and then suddenly he leaves and everybody's like, holy shit, what happened?
Yeah, and the guy's like, oh my God, I'm still holding his tongue. And he flicks it in the air. This shit is funny.
So it does have some comedic moments and I like it.
I was surprised that he could. So first of all, when you cut out your tongue, it's going to hinder your speech. But like he got it stitched up, and he still had like half a tongue left. Uh-huh. But he was talking. I don't know. They didn't show like time lapse. It wasn't like, hey, 3 months later.
Well, so he kept saying. Well, so when he got that phone call, that was actually Karen calling. Karen is the prostitute from the club, and she takes him to this like other prostitute who apparently knows somebody who knows somebody. Some more information about where Anjo probably is. What we don't know is that Karen is actually in cahoots with Gigi. And Gigi has been brainwashing Ichi to tell, so that he thinks that he witnessed that rape. And then Karen gets flashbacks because it looks like Gigi's been brainwashing Karen for those same ones. Anyway, it's this whole convoluted mess. We can't really get it straight. I haven't been able to find the answer. I have theories, but they're just theories. Anyway, during this time, Ichi goes to this sex club, gets a prostitute at the sex club.
Yeah,
There's these little
probably.
booths where you could just go in there and get a girl and, you know.
Yeah, it's Japan. That's what they do.
I didn't know that. What are those called, Stefan? How much are those?
I don't know. But
They clean them in between sessions.
I don't know. Yeah, who knows?
So, he's getting he wants a blowjob from her, but he won't get hard until he looks at all of her bruises. It's Sailor. It's the girl from the opening scene that was getting beat up by the pimp.
Yeah.
And he is looking at her bruises, and she's like super swollen. And let me tell you, I've had my face like that before. At one point, and I can laugh at it now, thankfully, but I had 2 black eyes, and my face popped up like this. Like, I feel like my eyes were like this big, and I looked like E.T. And that's from, you know, I was in a very violent and violent relationship, and so my eyes and so you can hardly see because I mean I have like squinty eyes anyway, but like you can hardly see, and so when I saw this scene, it very much it like triggered something in me because I just felt so bad for Sailor because you know, you can see the pain and it looked so real. It looked like the bruising on her face looked so real, looked so fresh. It looked painful, which is what the point was. But Ichi, it tells her he'll kill him for her. And that's when he finally is like, I'm going to blow my load and, you know, finally whatever. Mm-hmm. And he does. What he does later is he goes and sees that she's getting beat up again. This time she's being a little bit mouthy to her pimp. And he's like, this is all the money you got. You can still suck dick. You can fuck, whatever. And she said, I can't do that because people don't want to see my face.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And then he starts raping her. Then Ichi comes in.
Yeah. This is where he uses his cool ass blades.
His boots have a blade.
In it.
And then the blade is like, imagine like the bottom of the ice skates, but like on the back. Mm-hmm. And so what he does is he does a kick and slices him down like down in half.
Very Mortal
like
Kombat,
vertically in half.
Like very
like
fatality.
Flawless victory.
Yeah. Like right down the middle, and that was actually pretty cool.
It was a cool scene. It was gross as all hell. And then so he has saved Sailor, right? So she is like, oh my God, you killed him. And she's like panicked. And so he tells her very lovingly, I've killed him for you. Now I will beat you up.
Yeah, I'll beat you up now. Exactly.
And she's like, you'll beat me up. And she starts attacking him. And of course, he like slices her neck open and she starts
spraying blood everywhere. Now, so he is not only a crazy killer and knows, you know, some good martial arts and all that, but so and has you know,
he's like berserker,
right? He gets turned on by
violence
and brutality and stuff. Even though he's such a calm, quiet kind of guy.
Yeah, because we see
those are the ones you got to watch out for.
Where Gigi is talking to him and he's just sitting there,
playing video games,
and he's playing video games and he's playing on the PS2 Tekken Tag Tournament.
Yeah,
and he's just and that's all he's playing and he's being very gentle. And partially why Gigi is getting a little bit more harsh with Ichi throughout the movie is because Ichi's saying, I don't want to kill anymore. I'm not a killer. But that only starts after he has interacted with Karen, who for some reason pretended to be the girl from the past.
That's
because
what was confusing
we don't know
me.
if that was actually her and it was a real story and Gigi exploited that, or if he planted it in both their minds, you know, because it could happen either way, I'm guessing. But if he planted it in both their minds, whatever the reason, Karen and Ichi meet up and she kind of feeds into the story of, yes, you watched, but I really want you to rape me too. And he's like, oh, you want me to hurt you. And then she's like, realizes that something went wrong. And he's like, you don't want me to hurt you, so you want me to hurt you. And he like in his mind made this makes sense to him, and
Yeah.
so he kills her.
Right.
And then from then on out, he's like had an epiphany, and he's just mellow and he's calm. And
So we have these two crazy characters in this movie, Ichi and Kakihara. Both have like very weird sexual needs. They, one likes to feel the pain, the other one likes to see the pain.
Yeah.
And inflict.
The
yeah.
pain. Well, so
they're perfect for each other now, aren't they?
Right. So throughout the movie, Kakihara finds out about Ichi, and he's excited to meet Ichi because he's like, finally, somebody can hurt me the way that I want to. In one scene, he and Karen hook up because he likes that she also tortured her boss. Like, he was torturing her boss, trying to get information, and she joined in. So then they ended up hooking up.
Mm-hmm.
But they ended up hooking up because in a way that Kakihara was chained up, and Karen was supposed to inflict pain. And
she was trying her best.
And she was punching him. She was doing like a lot, whatever she could. And he was so disappointed.
Yeah.
He was so sad.
Like, you're weak.
Yeah, he just walked away. And she's like, I'll do better. But he wanted
she was really
somebody
upset too, though. She was like, I'm trying so hard. Like, what more do I have to do?
Yeah.
And, so he wants to basically find Ichi now because he knows that he could probably inflict the pain that he needs.
Right.
For him, which is, again, like, this is all subject matter that's very weird and outlandish, and
we're missing, like, we're skipping over a whole bunch of things. Like, there's a guy that got too high and suddenly found himself in a TV. There was, the like all these things like in between, like, that are just little like funny things, but they lead you from A to B. Like, the story isn't great, but it does have moments that leads you A to B to C to D. Now, Ichi can inflict the pain that Kakihara wants. So, Kakihara must find Ichi. Not only to avenge Anjo, but because he wants this pain.
Mm-hmm.
So, he enlists the help of two detectives. They're twins. They're detectives, but they torture. They torture the girlfriend of one of Gigi's guys. And they do that, they kidnap the girl, and they torture her. They like slice her nipples off and everything.
Oh, right, yeah, that scene.
That scene is, oh my
that
nipples.
Scene, yeah.
That scene is fucked up.
I think they...
Like, she won't give his name up. She did really well under the torture, but then they clamped her nipples, pulled in, and then dragged a sword across the table, and she did not give up the information. And that was one of the twins torturing. The second one goes, okay, my turn, puts on these dog ears and sniffs her vagina and says, I can find him now. And tracks him down like a dog.
Oh, you gotta love the imagination there.
Tracks him down like a dog. The guy here sees the silhouette of a guy, and so he ends up going to like escaping, and then he runs into Kakihara in the alleyway, and he's like, this is for my girlfriend. And he starts attacking Kakihara, but he can't inflict the pain that Kakihara wants. But what does Kakihara do? He pulls out the earrings that are closing together his Joker smile. Mm-hmm. And when the guy goes to punch him one more time, he super opens his mouth and clamps his hand down.
Yeah.
Holy
some crazy shit right there. Yeah, it's like he was like a snake can unhinge their jaw to open it wider. And so, yeah, now he's biting on this guy's fists.
Yeah, it was crazy. So anyway, they take this guy in and whatever, they, do their thing with him. Now, throughout the movie, there's this guy named, do you remember his name?
Which guy are we talking about?
The bodyguard.
No.
So there's a bodyguard that was supposed to be guarding Anjo. And in the beginning of the movie, he is concerned and he's like asking, should I just go with Anjo? Should I go? And they're like, he's getting his dick wet. Leave him alone. But he ends up getting kidnapped or getting killed, right? So he should have been watching him. But he wants to avenge him. He also has a son. And, there's this whole, his son.
Oh, right. The guy with his son. And the son, right.
And the son is actually helped by Ichi because the son is getting bullied, but Ichi takes care of the bullies.
Yeah,
whatever.
Right.
But this guy is also trying to avenge on Anjo, and he's even told his son, I'm doing this. If something happens to me, go live with your mother or something like that. Which is like, why do you have your kid anyway? Like, this guy, it turns out that he was on the police force, but he got let go because he lost his gun.
Yeah, that's right. He was a cop, but he lost his gun.
And throughout this whole movie, there was only one gunshot, and it didn't kill somebody. Like, everybody was killed in grotesque ways, not gun battles or whatever.
Right.
But it's just so crazy. Like, he sniffs them out, whatever. That bodyguard, so when he's sniffing out that guy, the bodyguard is supposed to be watching the girl that they tortured, and he is so upset that he can't go and help, that he is the one who ends up killing the girl.
Right.
Do you remember? Like,
Vaguely now.
They tortured her, but he ended up killing her.
Gotcha.
There's just so many points of this movie. Like, we're never going to be able to cover it all, but we can get to this part.
Okay, what part?
Ichi gets to the building where all the Yakuza go. Apparently, all the Yakuza hang out in this one building, and each gang has, like, a different floor.
Okay.
And Gigi has been hiding there because he's been waiting for Ichi to come around and be like, oh, okay, I'll kill again. Because at this point, Ichi was like, no. So Gigi's been hiding there. Kakihara's gang wants Gigi because they're like, he knows something. He knows something. And they find him. And the bodyguard... The bodyguard? No, the bodyguard... The second bodyguard, not the first one. The one that's angry all the time. The one that talks like this.
Gotcha. Who says, Kayara!
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I love his voice. I love it. I don't know. He goes and he chases Gigi downstairs, and then he's like, I'm going to kick your ass. And Gigi's like this big, but the guy's this big.
Yeah, he's pretty tall. He's kind of
He's like a
big
tall
stature,
man.
yeah.
But that's when Gigi takes off his jumper, and he's like this big, swole fucking guy. Kind of remind me of Big Trouble in Little China, and he's like...
And he puffs up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he gets his ass, like, every bone in his body is broken. Anyway, at one point, everybody finds everybody. Ichi ends up on the roof with Kakihara and the bodyguard's son, and nobody knows what happened in the end. Nobody fucking knows. Because there is a scene where Kakihara, where...
When you say nobody knows,
nobody fucking knows,
like
because
the
there's so many
or
theories.
people in the movie?
People in the movie. I mean, people
in
watching
real
the
life,
movie. Yeah, because nobody knows what actually happened. Because we see the bodyguard and Ichi, who have this relationship because they ran into each other some time ago. But Gigi had planted in his mind that this bodyguard guy is his long lost brother.
Okay.
Right? But he makes him kill him. So he's conflicted. And the little boy's there, and he chops his head off. And then
he chops whose head off?
The little boy's head off.
Oh yeah.
And then Kakihara can't get killed by Ichi because he's being such a bitch because he's crying over everybody who's dead. But then also he goes off the roof and is dying. Like, it's like, which part is real? When does reality end? Which part is a hallucination? So watch the movie, watch the ending. Tell me what your thoughts are on that. Because this movie kind of left me like super confused. And it depends on which version you watch. So that's also equally as
What do you mean, which version?
Well, there's a regular version and there's an uncut version.
Oh, okay.
I don't know which one we watched.
We watch, yeah. I mean, we saw some pretty uncut shit. So, I mean, if it's more gruesome than that, I can't even imagine. This movie wasn't really that disturbing. It just had really shocking, like, imagery.
Yeah.
But it wasn't so, like, it's a lot of it is their own Japanese culture. So again, like, to them, it's not even really disturbing at all. It's a lot of stuff that's maybe somewhat slightly taboo, I would think, but they embrace it in their culture a lot. But there other movies we've watched are just very disturbing. Like, it's so, like, demented and crazy. It's like, I think that some of the most disturbing parts of this movie were the beating of the girls and the brutal face bashing and all that kind of stuff.
The abuse of the sex worker and the torture of the girlfriend. Yeah, like, those two were very hard scenes.
Right. The Yakuza Suzuki guy is very brutal, but it's not. And he's even innocent, so it sucks for him. And it's very painful I would say, but it's not as brutal as watching those poor little innocent girls get, like, beat the shit out of, and raped. I mean, that's just fucked up. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I do like his weapons though. Like he has like this body suit. He's like in a motorcycle racing suit.
Yeah, he is wearing that back protector thing that has the number 1 on.
Yeah,
That
like
is like
Side Leathers. Hit us up
yeah.
if you're into motorcycle racing and need a set of leathers.
Yeah, it's some people call it a gator back, some people just call it a back protector. But yeah, that little pad with the 1 on it, that's definitely from motorcycle racing gear. That's funny.
Yeah, but so I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah,
there are parts
did
of it
too.
like super like trigger warning, like there's
sure.
rape, there's beatings, there's a lot of really fucked up shit happening. But then there's also like good horror, like good nasty, like cutting off of tongues and just
again like this
people
one,
getting slit in half, like that's the good part of it. The storyline, like I said, it's a little bit confusing. That said, it has been a couple of days since I watched it, so I can just be forgetting some of it. But it's good overall. If
I
you're
enjoyed
into this
it and I liked it again, but I also didn't really like the impact on it this time didn't land as it did the first time. But it also, to me, like I think Old Boy, for example, is a movie that really you could watch a bunch of times and it's still
actually I refuse to watch the remake.
Oh, I did by accident, not by accident. I didn't want to, and I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. And
so Old Boy, like we have to do an episode on Old Boy.
Yeah,
the movie
the remake
was the
is
shit.
not that
like
great.
The movie was the shit. Like it was like the first time you watch it, you're like, I am both mortified, grossed out, excited, like all these things at the same time.
Yeah, the remake, was that Spike Lee or somebody who did the remake? I forgot who did the remake, but
I don't know.
I think Josh Brolin is in it or whatever.
Really?
Yeah, he's the guy who plays Old Boy.
No.
Yeah. The one thing I didn't like about it, they changed a few elements in the English version from the twist ending surprise factor.
Well, don't tell me right now.
I'm not, but the one thing they did keep, which I don't know if I really liked it, was the cool scene where he does the fighting in Old Boy, where he's like, in the corridor, hallway, or whatever it is. Like they recreated that scene in the other one, but it was almost like shot for shot, and I don't know. They twisted some elements, kept others. I didn't really like the remake.
I don't want to watch it.
But why I brought that up is because I think that movie, Audition, also I've seen a couple times, and that one I still think is pretty cool. And I don't know, Martyrs to me is still one of my favorite.
Martyrs is the shit. It's
insane,
really good.
Crazy, demented. And that's a French movie. But I just like the shock value and the whole story and everything. That one I feel like has a little bit of a trifecta going on because you've got the paranormal element, you've got a torture horror element, and then there's like the twist
psychological
ending. Yeah, psychological twist ending element.
I know you won't let me watch the Serbian film. Not that you control what I do, but like
I'm warning you.
You won't watch it with me.
I'm warning you. And everyone out there in the world, do not watch it. If you're going to watch it now because I told you not to, that's on you. It's unfortunately, I don't know.
It's supposed to be a really put together fucked up movie.
Yes, it's really fucked up. It's
like,
put together in a way though where it's not like some like really campy movie. It's actually shot well. The cinematography, the colors, the pictures, everything is like done very, very decently to the point where you're like, oh my gosh.
Here's the shocking part of that movie that is why I'm not watching it. And it's...
Well, you're going to just spoil it for everybody? Because some people might watch it.
If somebody's going to watch this movie and get mad that I spoiled this part of it, they deserve to have it spoiled.
Well, what part you haven't seen it, so what part are you going to spoil?
The part that I know about it is that there's like a baby rape scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's disgusting. And that's why I don't want to watch it. I do want to watch it for the rest of the movie. I just don't want to watch that. Like the ABCs of death, I got up to a certain letter and then I couldn't watch it. Like after a certain letter, like I was like, I can't do this. Like anything involving children really does it for me. Ever since I saw that one movie that you found for me that I told you that I never want to watch again, and it's just
that Korean movie.
Korean movie,
about the school.
The school for the deaf. Yeah. I mean, there's like a lot of these movies that I just won't watch, but then there's some movies that I do want to watch, like Silo.
Speaking of that, it's not Silo, Salo.
Salo.
Yeah. That director just, I think maybe it was like, he was murdered way back after that movie came out. And I heard a lot of different
Was it
things,
because
but
of the movie?
some people say yes. Some people say there was also political shit going on as well. Um, he might have been outspoken against some political parties or whatever, or
Mm.
maybe that had something to do with it. But that director, Paulo, forgot his name, Paulo, I forgot. I'm gonna murder
The
his name right now.
director of
Yes,
Salo.
it there was like something that was posted recently that I saw. It probably was maybe the anniversary of his death, or maybe when whatever. Apparently, he was a very good writer and poet, and had other stuff that was of. I don't know. I don't know too much about him, but I guess he has something else in his career that he did, which was very respectable. Um,
Well, we all have some parts in us that are a little bit darker than
Yeah.
others.
Well, if you watch the movie once, I mean, you can still say that that's probably, I mean, for some people, it's just gross and disgusting. But there's a reason why people make these movies, because it's not so much that they're trying to translate a message. They're trying to talk about a time period or people or
Right.
culture or things
Right.
that were going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Like a Serbian film, for example, that movie was supposed, like, my understanding is that the movie is supposed to be a commentary on the situation of that time.
yeah, yeah,
You know, like
in
the
Serbia.
intense poverty and corruption
Yeah.
that was happening at that time.
It's funny that you mentioned that film, because we were talking about awkwardness and children and parents not watching like whatever. In Serbian film, the main guy, he's basically a retired porn star, and the opening scene, or somewhere in the beginning of the movie, he's like, him and the mom wake up to find the son watching the father's porn movies. Like, he's watching his dad's movies in the living room, and it's like, what?
Like, if my kids watch porn, that'd be fine. But it's a different story if it's like your own porn. That's just
I know,
weird.
right? And he's banging somebody else. It's not the mom, obviously, in the movie.
I think that's better. Have you ever like walked in on your parents have sex?
My parents have no pub PDA. They don't do any.
Your
of
parents
that
have
kind of
sex
stuff.
at least 4 times.
Yeah, probably only 4 times, but I've never seen them do anything. My parents are not affectionate toward. They're still together, so some might argue that divorces rates are high and people don't last that long. But through the thick and thin, my parents are still together after 40-something years. But
My
yeah, they
parents
don't show
are
any
not together.
affection.
Actually, my mom's like on her 3rd marriage at the moment. But
I never even see my mom and dad really hold hands.
Neither have I. Neither have I. I remember we went camping once, and my friend Tamika said, because we took my friend Tamika with us, she was like, "Your mom and dad were kissing back there," and I'm like, "I don't believe you. I didn't see it, but I experienced it secondhand." But like, I've never seen it. Like my mom sent me away to this like school sponsored military boot camp kind of thing for a week, right? And in San Luis Obispo at like the whatever military base or whatever. And when I came back, everybody's parents, they were hugging them and they were loving them. And my mom pats me on my back and goes, "So you're back."
Yeah.
And that's what I got. Like, it's just not, I guess.
Well, that's also something that is like if you've seen
Like,
that 70s show, typical white America father figures were also like that too. They didn't want to hug their sons or whatever, like the Red, what's his name? Red
Foreman.
Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing. There's definitely like a fuck ton of PTSD in my family. Like, they escaped a slaughter of the civil war in El Salvador in the 80s. And like I told you before, my mom like has shrapnel scars on her body. There's a fuck ton of PTSD. So the last thing you want to do is really just make yourself feel vulnerable. I think that's why I've had such a you know how Facebook does these memories, whatever?
Yeah.
I read one the other day and I didn't want to share it with you, but it was like, twice today I've been told that I am a cold bitch. But it's because when you're traumatized or you're hurt so much or you're attacked or you're victimized or whatever it is, you build this tough exterior, so that's seemingly impenetrable. And you joked about it earlier today when I was crying over the Great British Baking Show, and you're like, what happened to you? You're supposed to repress your feelings, and that's what I used to do all the time. But now it's like, now that I've allowed myself to feel feelings, like my sister said to me, like maybe 5 years ago, she's like, "You're a girl now," because I felt feelings.
You're a girl now.
Yeah, and but like after you go through so much, you build this exterior, and it's a fuck ton of work to take it to take it down. And like it took me a long time to realize that my life with my parents was hard as shit, but they did what they could.
Sure.
And I don't have to stay angry at that.
Sure. Cool.
You can only show love if you know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it just out of fucking nowhere and be like, "Hey, love you, pal."
Yeah.
Like the only reason I'm like affectionate to my children is because aside from my mother, we've had people growing up, and I've been able to experience love from the people she worked with. Like my mom was a nanny all her whole life, and she was able to take us, and we became families with the families she worked for. And like I said, I celebrated like so many Hanukkahs because of these families, and I saw what love looked like. And that's why I'm able to give that to my children, I think.
All right. Great. Cool. We've
and on
gone
that note,
so off topic all over the place here. This has been a very it's an interesting podcast. Yeah, I don't know. So
the point is, I don't know what happened with Ichi.
Yeah, this movie, if I would say I liked it. Definitely not for everybody. Definitely one that, I think, if people aren't really ready for this kind of intensity, if this is their first step into that, it's going to be a little tough. But, it's movie, it's art, you got to look beyond it. You have to look into the writer and the director's vision of it. What were they trying to say? Is there an underlining message? Is there anything in it? Sometimes you don't find any of that, but it's still, it can be fun. And that's what I think, for me, when I first watched it, it was shock value. Then, next time I watched it now, I still enjoyed it, but, it didn't really have the same impact this time around for me.
So I was reading a review and I wish I could give credit to the person who wrote this, but I'll read it. Ichi the Killer is about the disappointment and potentially seductive power of violence and the nightmare of being simultaneously drawn in and alienated by images of men hurting women as a means of indirectly hurting themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's powerful. And it is actually really interesting that this movie, we're doing it today because today also AOC gave such a powerful speech today about women being punching bags all the time. AOC?
Who the fuck is AOC?
Congresswoman.
Oh, okay.
Because another representative called her a fucking bitch, and she had to address that. And she's like, "Look, I'm not hurt by it, but I have to say something because of his half-assed fucking apology." He was like, "I couldn't say that. I have daughters. I have a wife." Yeah. And she did something so great. She said, just because you have a daughter doesn't mean that you're not an asshole. Now, she didn't use Heidi words. Like, just because you have a wife does not mean you're an asshole. Mm-hmm. Does not mean that you're not an asshole. And I am so glad somebody finally said that. Because people always fucking say, why would I... Like, when, what's that guy? That Supreme Court judge that was appointed. That was accused of rape. Anyway, they were like
the one who lost his the calendar, didn't have it on his calendar. Is that the one you're talking about? Kavanaugh. Yeah.
So Kavanaugh, he's like, why would I have children? I have a wife. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you didn't fucking rape this girl when you were a kid. You fucking prick.
Right.
Like, so anyway, I'm so glad she did that. So that was our tie-in into politics today.
Yeah. On a quick side note, I just wanted to get this director's name right because, I feel like Salo. It's S-A-L-O.
Why do I keep saying silo?
Silo's a thing that you find on a farm.
With rice.
Yeah, a salo. So anyways, the director's name is Pier Paolo Pasolini.
Yeah. And he directed Salo.
Yes.
Which is also called 100 Days in Gomorrah?
No, 120 Days of Sodom. Yeah, that's that movie. That's also another one that's really hard to watch. I don't know if that's gonna ever be something we do on this pod. It's not really a horror movie, so I don't think it really
It's like
falls into.
there's like children rape, right?
Yeah, first of all, I don't know. The movie was made so long ago. I don't even know if any of these children are really totally of age. So I don't like to watch shit like that just because these young actors.
Yeah, kind of like
days,
when we did the Funhouse and that girl. You're like, I don't know if I should be looking at her boobs.
Well, there we knew like she was over 18, but she had a very young looking face
until she put on all that blue eye mascara.
Her body wasn't totally young. Her body was totally over 18, but her face looked really young. But
let's stop it there.
Yeah, let's stop there.
Well, that was an episode of this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. A very scattered Ichi the Killer ice cream parlor.
Very in line with the movie itself.
Yeah. I don't know. This one sort of came out of nowhere. I mean, I know we kind of like sometimes the movies we watched have little tie-ins with one another. This one just sort of I didn't even know what prompted you to want to watch this one again, because it seemed like we did Tenebrae and then we did like what was the one before that one, The Baby or whatever. It was like
I just wanted to do something different.
Yeah, well, this was definitely different.
Yeah, and also I really want to find Tokyo Gore Police. I think I'm remembering that movie right. It's the woman, she loses her bottom half, so her vagina is an alligator.
I don't think I've ever seen it. Is it a horror movie or is it just yeah? I don't know. I mean, there's probably ways you can find it. Just we're trying to do it the right way.
I try to tell my TV, please find Tokyo Gore Police.
Yeah.
I have to do that accent in order for my TV to understand what I'm saying.
That's what you think, but I don't think that's how it works.
I have to tell my car the same thing. I go, navigate to, and then wherever, and they're like, okay, so navigate to Target, and they'll say, we do not find Jaspers anywhere. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, how do you want to end this? Are we done over here? Are we chopping this one up? I just ran out of beer, so I want to go get another one. If you want to keep talking, we can. Otherwise, we can wrap it up if you think we're done.
We can wrap it up. I think we're done. Thank you so much for stopping by again. We greatly appreciate your watches, your listens, your views, your downloads, everything. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't done so already, and give us a like. Leave some comments down below. Tell us your thoughts on Ichi the Killer. What the fuck happened at the end?
Yeah.
I don't fucking know.
Was it something that you enjoyed? Did you understand it? Are there others that are...
Where can I find Tokyo Gore Police?
Yeah, that too, if you know the answer.
What was your first porn? Maybe email us that one. Don't put it in the comments. You can email us at icecreamparlor.podcast@gmail.com, or you can visit our site icecreampodcast.com, where you can send us messages, comment on episodes, download episodes, and figure out where you can watch or listen. Thanks again for stopping by. You guys are the best.
Yeah. We'll see you next time, and
check out dti.band.
Yeah, check out the music if it's not your cup of tea, pass it along. I'm sure you have a friend that likes that kind of music.
It's a lot of guttural screams, and I love it. All right, that's all for us today.
Signing off. Till next time.
Okay, bye.